As we come near to Holy Week and the Passion story of our Lord Jesus, one little moment caught my attention as I was reading our family devotional materials at home with my family. It's that moment when Jesus locked eyes with Peter. Jesus had warned Peter that he would deny even knowing Jesus 3 times before the cock crowed that night. But Peter insisted that he would remain strong and faithful and that he would even die with Jesus. But as the events played out that night, Peter made a different choice. As Jesus was being interrogated by the Jewish leadership, Peter was nearby, warming himself by a fire. You know the story from there. Others noticed him and asked Peter if he was with Jesus. There was no threat to his life or imminent danger in that moment. It was a servant girl who was wondering about his association. And as others became curious, more questions came until 3 denials were made, with the last refusal to acknowledge the one who he had earlier confessed to be the Christ, the Son of God. The rooster crowed, and for a brief moment in the chaos of that night, Peter looked at Jesus, and Jesus was looking right at him too. It was a look of acknowledgement. I know what you just did. I know that you just denied me 3 times. And Peter knew that he knew, and he was cut to the heart, and he wept bitterly as he fled into the night. This moment of seeing each other made me think of another passage in the Bible where God is noted to be looking at us. In fact, I memorized the NIV version of Psalm 32 because of this line in verse 8, where it says, "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you." I was really taken with the idea that when God looks at us, He looks at us with loving eyes on us. Not His disgusted eye, or His fed up eyes, or His eyes red with anger. Now, I'm not saying that there is no judgment of God as He looks at us. That's the whole point of judgment. We are examined thoroughly, and everything about us is known. So when Jesus looked at Peter, did He look at him with His loving eye on him? Even as He denies the one who loves Him and is headed to His crucifixion because of the depth of His love for him. He looked at Judas, who betrayed Him to death, the same way, with love. If there was no love, He would have prevented Judas and Peter from inflicting their evil choices. But Jesus is always looking for the redemption of the sinner. Peter was redeemed, but Judas failed to see the eyes that looked on him as loving, forgiving, and redeeming. No, Judas looked away from God, and killed himself. Peter would again see the eyes of Jesus, though, through tear-stained cheeks. How do you think that God looks at you? Or would you rather not think about His gaze and assume that most of the time He's looking elsewhere, and that when He does look at you and your way, He is sighing deeply and frustrated with your lack of faith and your faithfulness? Judas projected onto Jesus his own judgment of himself. He projected onto Jesus his own condemnation and then carried out his own sentence. But Peter looked a different way. He looked with hope, because when he had heard that Jesus had risen from the dead, he also heard that Jesus wanted him to know that He had risen. "Tell Peter," Jesus said. Jesus did look at Peter with His loving eye on him. And Jesus looks at you with the same eyes. His crucifixion was for sinners. His resurrection brings life, love, and grace to you. And with His resurrected eyes, He looks at you in love. So, fix your eyes on Jesus. the author and perfecter of your faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, sat down at the right hand of God.